funny friends, my funny friends, my funny friends now. My funny friends, my funny friends, my funny friends now.
Starring Drew Harrison and Will Abeles.
Hey, welcome back to a kind of a reboot of such. You know, we here at My Funny Friends have decided to bring on a co-host going forward. Me and this gentleman went on the road recently, really hit it off, had fun doing some shows. So, ladies and gentlemen, my new co-host, Mr. Will Abeles.
Those all the fans.
Yeah. Turn them on.
Or the flies rather.
Might I add third favorite comedian in Nashville currently on his he's going on a little campaign trail to get number one next year.
Yeah. I'm going back to Hagerstown, Maryland to rig it for a second year in a row.
Meeting with your campaign manager after this. I know. I saw your planner. I know.
It is. It's my high school prom date.
Well, I want to take the time to get to know you a little bit. So I always like to ask my guests, when and what year did you start doing comedy?
Oh, so this is actually kind of a funny. So I actually tried stand-up for the first time in 8th grade, but I wasn't actually like really doing stand-up. I just it was a talent show for the high school, and they let the middle schoolers come up and do like it if you had it.
So they could pick on you.
I guess so. Maybe I was getting baited. I just got up and I did Jerry Seinfeld and Sinbad jokes.
Oh,
and I had
stealer.
Yeah, well, yeah, 100%. I still do. I still steal Sinbad's jokes.
I knew that act looked familiar.
But yeah, so I was doing that. I had one original joke, and it was what did the frog do when he died? He croaked.
Oh, okay.
I learned the word croaked meant dead, and I was like, "Oh my god, frogs croak!" And
that was just the highlight.
A master craftsman was born.
Yeah. How did the school take it?
Oh my god! I just got laid immediately.
They carried you out on the shoulder. He's in high school now. Forget this middle school nonsense.
Yeah, he gets promoted.
Yeah.
No, I mean people. I mean it was. I couldn't even tell you how people liked it or didn't like it. I was just like I was like I was like 13. I blacked out. You know. I don't remember.
Will Ferrell in Old School. Like what happened? I don't.
Did I nail the Seinfeld joke with the grape nuts? Yeah.
Did anybody video
it? Not that there's some pictures. I don't think there's any videos.
Okay, that's good. Can't come back and hurt you later on. You know.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll see. But yeah, so I did it then. Then I would host some talent shows in high school, and I'd act and that kind of stuff. And then it wasn't until college that it was my sophomore year. So 2008, I'm going to say somewhere around maybe October, November of 2008. A roommate of mine is a Jamaican guy named Blaze. It's his legal first name. It's Blaze.
I'm so jealous.
I know. Blaise. He makes beats in Jamaica now.
Oh, living my dream.
Yeah, great dude. We keep in touch. But my nickname was McLovin early on in my college days. That movie was very popular. I'm not going to go into that story. Okay. My nickname was McLovin.
Just give us a brief, just the cliff notes.
Basically, just that movie was between my senior year in high school and freshman year in college was when Superbad came out.
Okay.
And it was just sweeping the nation.
Sweeping
the nation. And so I saw it 6 times in theaters that summer. I was like, this movie is speaking to me. and so I went to Emerson College. That's where I went to school. And I originally
Southern Baptist school. Yeah.
No, that's Emory.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you.
Wait, is Emory a Southern Baptist school?
I don't know.
It's just a Southern school.
Yeah, sure.
You could have said anything, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that sounds right.
Actually, it was founded in 1856 in Louisville, South Carolina. And descendants of the Confederate soldiers.
Yes.
There's safe space.
Ralph Waldo Emerson,
Yes.
Confederate General Ralph Waldo Emerson.
The painter. Oh,
Doesn't that guy play the flute? So we're at Emerson College, and I was choosing between schools, and I wanted to work in TV, film, whatever. That was the whole thing. And Emerson's got a great program, or they did at least. I don't know what they're like now. I assume it's still pretty good.
I cannot vouch for them going forward.
Yeah. In case anything's going on that I don't know about, I can't vouch for them right now, but they were pretty good at the time. And they also asked if I wanted to come play soccer, and I was like, heck yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then I got there and I got cut like immediately.
But you invited me.
I was like, but isn't that kind of so? My friends at that point though, because we had been doing the tryouts, like we're a soccer team, so we're all hanging out, we're playing Wii, and it was Wii Sports was huge at the time. Yeah, and we're playing Wii Sports, and I like was just like goofing off about something, and somebody said, "Okay, calm down, Fogel," and then someone said, "Fuck it, we're calling him McLovin," and then it just stuck for about a year and a half. Like any party I went to, there was no Will Abeles. It was McLovin.
Oh,
and
nice.
it was dangerous to my health. Like I threw up at every party because people just fed me shots, keg stands, no matter if I wanted to do it or not. It was happening. Great time from what I remember, but just the senior. But the cool thing was I got to go to all the senior parties because they were like McLovin's here, and that was great.
This persona was your ticket to everything.
I had a friend who I ended up playing tennis as well, and a guy, we're in the tennis van sophomore year, and he's like telling the story about some guy that was at his party that jumped on a table and just started ripping shots, and he was like, hey, get off my table, and I tried to fight him, and then all of a sudden like 10 people come out of nowhere and circled him, and they're like, you don't touch McLovin, and I was like, oh, that was me. I was McLovin. I also puked that night. I know exactly which party you're talking about. I know the loft. He was like, "Yeah, it was a loft." I was like, "Yeah, I remember that night."
Yeah. Have you been in your laundry room? It's everywhere.
Just so you know, if you haven't gone in the last year, I am sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's the McLovin background. That's the short, long
Thank
version.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. So anyway, we're walking by this flyer. I believe his name's Reggie Williams.
Okay.
Was it Reggie Williams? I think it was Reggie. And he used to like kind of like help get open micers started. And there was a sign on a door, and Blaze and I are walking by, and it just said, "Do you want to try stand-up comedy?" And Blaze was like, "Yo, McLovin, you got to try out stand-up comedy." And I was
You
like,
gotta
"Right."
do it.
Yeah, so I tried it out once. There were not a lot of people in the audience. Actually, it was a decent audience, but
What's the venue? Like, what was the venue like?
It was called, I believe it was the multi-purpose room at Emerson College.
Oh, so on the own college grounds. Okay.
Oh yeah.
It's most of my just a little student area.
Yeah, most of the shows I did from that point on were on Emerson's campus. It was either the cabaret room or the multi-purpose room.
Okay.
I prefer the multi-purpose room, but the cabaret was the better room.
Okay. Good to know.
So McLovin, Blaze dropped out before
you just start talking to yourself as third person.
Yeah.
So
I just like an eagle
McLovin.
situation. Yeah, like Smeagol Gollum, right? It was just like McLovin. So Blaze dropped out because he wanted to move to warmer climates because Boston is truly frigid, and he never saw the first time I did stand up. So two of my roommates went, and I can only hear their laughs in the back, and I am just bombing my face off because I'm doing what I think a stand-up comedian's supposed to do. So I wrote just like a setup punchline without really knowing how to do that yet. Yeah. And you know me, I'm a storyteller. That's more my wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
So I'm telling the story. I'm doing these bits, doing these jokes, just bombing so hard, and I'm like, this sucks. So I see the 2-minute light, and I just start telling the most popular story that I had been telling my friends at the time that used to get laughs when we're like all hanging out drinking or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a story that I pray to God doesn't surface, but it's a funny story. It's just one of those like hookup stories that you're just like you have little lines in there that like it's dirtier. It's not a story that I would tell now, Yeah.
My closer used to be hella dirty. So
yeah.
I'm just embarrassed anytime I watch a video that's on there at all.
Yeah, like it's a story where like I remember the one line that got an applause break was I was talking about getting a blowjob, and I said, "So I feel myself getting towards the end." So I tapped her on the head like a gentleman, and that got an applause break. And that's when I was like, "Oh, I should just tell stories."
Yeah.
Not that joke. I've never told
Not
that
that
joke.
story.
Not that story. I've never told that story since. But
Yeah.
I watched the video again later because my roommates were filming it, and I was like, "Oh, that's the thing. I should tell stories." So I waited
Gotcha.
4 or 5 months, and then in the spring semester did like 7 minutes, did 4 stories or something, and it just clicked from there on out
There you go.
for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was when I started.
And this is in Boston?
It's in Boston at Emerson College, split between the cabaret and the multipurpose room.
All right.
In Piano Row.
So you graduate school, I'm assuming?
Yep. So I finished college.
Still hang around Boston?
Hang around Boston for about 4 months. I palled around with a guy named Blake Wexler. Blake stuck around. There's also a guy named Sean Connolly that would help me out, but he was in Worcester. So Sean was the first guy that saw my tape from that second time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were working at a summer camp together. And Sean was like, "This is pretty good for your second time on stage."
Is this
He's like,
the touring comedian Sean Connolly?
I don't know how much Sean tours these days.
Okay.
He's pretty much exclusively in Worcester. He's also like got a kid, married.
Gotcha.
You know, but he is like the godfather of the Worcester comedy scene. Like he and
comedy crew.
Yeah, he and a few dudes have been just working for. And I couldn't even tell you how many years now, and it's a great scene now. It's a really solid scene. I have yet to have a bad time in Worcester from all the way back in 2009 up until now. So
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. So Sean's done a great job. They have all the whole Woot and Annie crew's done a good job.
Woot and Annie? That's a fantastic name.
Perfect. And they have a great festival. Everything they're doing everything right. They got 2 clubs now. That's great. Yeah, it's awesome. But Sean was the first person that was like, "You should try and do stand up more." So then my junior year, I start doing it a little bit more, become friends with a guy named Max Fox and Blake Wexler.
These names are just top notch.
Blake, Max is in more sketch now. Blake is still doing it though. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's doing all right. But yeah, you look back at these names, and we're like, what? Who named us?
Yeah.
What were our parents doing? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Blake started taking me around the Boston scene after college, and you know, we didn't like. I was already kind of in with the Comedy Studio, and to me, that was like the mecca of Boston comedy. There's a bunch of clubs there, but that was to me the one that I really wanted to shine at.
Yeah.
Because I'd seen like Gary Goldman there, I'd seen Rory Scovel there, I saw Pete Holmes. Like I was like, oh, okay, this is a cool spot.
Yeah.
And also, the owner, who's a friend now, is really tough on young comics, and so he was in the phase where he was tough on me at the time. So I was like, I got to make this guy like me.
Yeah, it makes you
Yeah.
in the right setting. It can drive you. You know what I mean?
Right.
It can make you want to be a better comic for sure.
Yeah. So I did that for a couple months. Things went really well, real quickly, comparatively. I mean, you don't really know. You're a young comic. You assume this is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. You think back and you remember the things that you used to get so hyped about. You know what I mean? And you're like,
Right.
Oh, I was happy about that. Oh God, I wish that made me happy now.
Right.
You know?
And like 500 views on a YouTube video, you were like, whoa.
I still would be hyped about 500 views. YouTube.
Yeah, I mean yeah. But things are changing, right? Now it's 500,000 or 500 million. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yes, things were going well, and then I had some roommates that were like, not some roommates, some friends that were like, let's go down to New York together. And I was, well, I think I've done everything I could have done in Boston, which, in hindsight, I wish I could go back and have stayed there for maybe 2 more years, if not at least another year, and just really gotten to know the scene better, and just really develop my chops a bit more, you know, and just had that experience. But again, I didn't have anyone telling me.
Right.
There wasn't a guidebook I could read,
No,
you know.
And if there was one, you probably shouldn't read it in the first place, you know.
No, because it's written by somebody who hasn't done comedy in 30 years, or it was written by Vulture magazine for a person that's never done stand up in their entire life. Yeah.
Or their path just doesn't work for you. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's teach their own. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did Boston a little bit, and
So
then I
you're
went
in
to New York.
now. Oof.
Yep.
Okay. Did you hit the ground running in New York? How'd New York treat you at first?
I did. I was doing so well in New York the first 5 months that I had to go back to Boston once a month to do a show. I was gonna. I got to New York to go back to Boston, and I was going back to Boston. Yeah, I think every 4 weeks I would go do the studio for the weekend, and then come back to New York and like try out some open mics. But I was very alone in the New York scene. Like
Yeah.
I didn't move there with other comics.
Right.
So that's something when I hear other comics talk about like, oh, me and so moved together. I'm like, yeah, of course you did. You have to,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
genius. Yeah.
like it's just you should. But I just again didn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Hindsight. So
Right.
what year is this? What year?
So this is now 2011. This is the fall of 2011.
Okay.
And I'm going back and forth between Boston and New York. Get to the winter, get to like December, and I lose my first job in New York because I told the owners of the company I was working for how I felt about the company.
Oh no, I've done that and
Told 'em-
this never goes
Told them
well.
how I felt. Yeah.
So how'd they
And
take it?
Well, they let me go. They let me go right before I would have qualified for unemployment by letting me go as well, which was very
Of
convenient on
course.
all parties. Convenient
Of
for all parties.
course.
But they did reach out 2 years later and ask for a LinkedIn recommendation, and I ignored it. Did ignore it. So
That's ridiculous. Yeah. Screw
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Screw you. All right. So you're in New York, not really digging the comedy scene. Now you're jobless. What's the game plan here? What's the move?
So what happened next? I think, all right, so it's still around that, you're at that age where you go home for Christmas for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're still,
If you can. Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
can. So I'm
I
just
guess
like, well,
you could, you know.
yeah, go home. If I remember correctly, the girl that the girl that I was seeing at the time, we end things. She was
Okay.
like a high school sweetheart sort of thing. Tried it again in New York, didn't work out.
Yeah.
I'm also, as you can tell, at this point, at this stage of my life, a bit all over the place. So I imagine I was,
No.
yeah, it wasn't the, yeah. Back then, not now.
Oh yeah. For sure. For the record, I think this is a perfect time to add that I gave Will an energy drink on the way to Atlanta, and when we got to Atlanta, it was Atlanta traffic, and I thought my man was going to run out into traffic on said energy drink. So continue.
Look, sponsor me Monster Energy, and I'll drink it every day. I'll drink it every day just to ruin Drew's life.
Monster or Rockstar, we'll go with either or.
Or Bang. I want Bang Energy so I can hang out with more influencers.
Is that a big influencer heavy?
You're so married. You're so married.
So what? Yeah, what is? Fill me in on this real quick.
Bang Energy is like their whole marketing
Is
campaign
influencers.
is just
Don't they
and
have hard
just the-
seltzers now?
Oh, I don't know about
I
that.
think they have Bang. I think they have a seltzer.
I'm gonna have to contact my local influencer and tell her she needs to up her game
Yeah.
and start drinking these hard seltzers.
She's only
I'm
got the
missing out
under
on.
21 contract. You know what I mean? The under 21 endorsements. They're waiting for you to come
Hey,
along so you
she's-
can do the seltzer game for them, you know?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was like, well, no, she's like 25. I've looked it up.
Yeah, but is drinking what they want to push on her? Is that her influence? You know what I mean? You got to think about
Yeah.
these from a marketing standpoint, Mr. Will. You know?
Well, and that's why I'm here, and you know, this is background. This is your
Marketing.
background. Yeah. So I'm in New York. I don't have a job. Not sure what to do. I had gotten an offer to work as a page at the Late Show with David Letterman, and I didn't take it initially because I was already working at the other place, and the pay was awful. And not because they paid like 12 an hour, which isn't like the worst you ever heard of, but it was only part-time. So
pretty
you only
bad in
worked
New
like
York.
20, 25 hours a
Okay,
week.
I got
Yeah.
you.
And it's
Okay.
New York. And it's New York.
Yeah, so 12 doesn't
And-
go that as far.
No, and it just seemed like I was like, I don't really know at this point. So I took a job at a soccer store.
Okay.
Loved
Nice.
it.
Hell yeah.
Was like
Those
selling
jobs are the
selling.
best, man.
Yeah, it's just one of those random things where I was selling like
No
cleats
pressure.
to rich yeah, like rich Upper West Side kids
Yeah.
who were like, well, like, is this gonna make my, you know, like outside the foot pass better? And I'm like, you're
Yeah.
9.
Yeah.
And this is also
Yeah, bro.
2012 America.
We all
You're
suck.
not gonna
It's fine.
you're not gonna get better. Yeah,
We
yeah,
all are
yeah.
terrible. You know?
Where Nike just knows how to get you to buy this shoe.
Yeah.
So we're working there. Stand-up's going okay. Starting to like figure out some things with it. And then I took a job at a what are they called? A startup. And I was just doing data entry for the startup. But it was
Okay.
quick cash and I could balance it with a soccer store. And they found out that I was a comedian.
Oh,
They were like, "Well, we have this idea for this other startup we're working with." And it was basically like a precursor to Zoom. If I have to
really?
like if I have to kind of pinpoint it. It's like
Could have
Zoom
been
and
on the
also
ground
like
floor of Zoom.
kind of. It reminded me a lot of Zoom, but if it had like the TikTok live interactions
Okay.
where like you're just like
So
you can
these
just
people
say
were
whatever.
sitting on Zoom and TikTok child.
I feel like it was like a Zoom TikTok trial, maybe like Twitch. Maybe Twitch is probably the closest thing to compare it to.
Huh. And what happened with that?
They were around for a while.
Okay.
This was not the company
I
I worked
thought you were
for.
about to be like, I said no, they didn't go for it.
No.
And it fell on them, you know.
I was working for a different company. This company was like 2 floors above us or something.
Yeah.
And we just all kind of worked together. Reese Witherspoon got involved, and that was when that company started blowing up.
Okay.
And we were trying to figure out what to do with our product to make it work on their streaming platform, right?
Gotcha.
And again, like I said, I was just doing data entry.
Yeah.
But the data entry
But you
was
were around and hearing everything. You know?
and the data entry was all of the bands going to South by Southwest because our plan was to go down to South by Southwest and interview these bands prior to it and then show them the app in person. And that app was kind of like Linktree a little bit.
Okay.
Where it was like, God, man, we were just
Did
sitting
you
on a
just
gold
work
mine.
Did you just work at the Wish of social medias?
I think like I was just I'm just like thinking about the money that I could have been making. I'm saying this is me realizing this out loud for the first time that I was working for basically Linktree on top of Twitch,
on top of TikTok,
on top of okay. Okay, so we're trying to get this app off the ground, and like so I start putting together these bands or whatever. The owner, super nice guy, kind of eccentric, maybe a little sketchy. I heard like some some articles popped up later that was like it might have been a stolen app. I don't really know. Like stuff
stolen
stuff like
from
that's coming up.
Linktree.
Maybe. Also hearing like, hey, Will, we have a connection with the Kardashians, and I was like, not a bad connection to have if you're trying to get something to be popular. You know, like don't love them, but I'll do it for the money.
Right.
So finally, they decide that I'm actually going to start interviewing the bands over the streaming platform. And that was how we were going to get our name out there. So I would just start interviewing bands. And then they were going to send me down to South by Southwest to interview them in person. And it was going to be like a man on the ground kind of, man on the street kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, aspiring stand-up comedian.
This is perfect.
I have a background in late night. I want to eventually move into late night. And I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
I've been in New York for 6 months.
My dreams are coming true.
It's great. So I interview a bunch of really cool bands. I almost got to interview, what's their names? The Alabama Shakes.
Oh, wow.
Right after they crushed that Conan set. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
And I like got on the phone with their manager and they're like, well, we can give you one of them. And then it fell through and I was like, But I got a couple of cool, I got a couple of cool bands like Shiny Toy Gun or Guns. I got in trouble for saying either Gun or Guns because they were one or the other. I don't remember. I don't listen.
You got to get it right, man. You got to get it right.
I don't listen to them. So anyway, I'm thinking, I'm like mentally like, I'm going down to South by Southwest. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna have a massive credit. It's gonna be awesome. And then they pull me aside and they go, so we're out of money. And you're fired because we can't pay you. And they were like, but if we get more money, we're bringing you back on. Also, we're not going to South by Southwest anymore. Also, we don't know if there's even a product to send you to South by Southwest. And I was just like, this, I should have seen this coming.
Damn, dude. So
Yeah.
that just fell right bottom out again.
And this was 5 weeks. This was like a 5 week. So that's a real high and low real quick.
Just a slow nipple twist,
Yeah. Both nipples though. Yeah.
Oh, so how did you pick yourself up after that one?
So I'm still doing stand up.
Okay.
I start doing shows at the Old New York Comedy Club. That's going fine. I actually start talking to, I get in with this assistant, like she's the assistant to an agent.
Okay.
And she starts watching my stuff. And so I start getting like a couple of nibbles here and there. And then I end up taking the job at Letterman.
Okay.
I
So
go, you know what? I'm taking the job.
Did you reach back out, or like did they come calling again, or like how'd that come about?
The person that was my in there, I never took them up on the opportunity the first time. So I went back and said, hey, is it too late to try this? And she goes, no, definitely not too late. And so we tried it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I start there. Goes great. Work with a great group of people. I'm still really close friends with a lot of them. Some of them have been roommates, all like kind of like I was just at one of the guys' weddings a couple weeks ago, like very close group of friends. Then I need to figure out a second source of income, and I end up working at a gay sports bar. And I'm working as a busboy. So so by day I'm working at the front lobby of Letterman. By night I'm working either at stand up or at the gay sports bar.
Okay.
And I think I had the best 4 months of my entire life.
Please tell me the wardrobe for the gay sports bar was shirtless.
It was, but not for me, because I was a tiny lad, and all the gentlemen around me were quite large.
So what was your uniform? You just wore like a regular bartender, just wore your clothes?
Jeans and a t-shirt. I mean, I was also a barback, so I'm like lifting kegs. I'm like grabbing glasses all over the place. I mean, the boys that were just in their shorts were all behind the bar. They were the eye candy, throwing the drinks out there.
Gotcha.
And then I was
grunt work.
And I'm doing the grunt work, just putting my hair once in a while.
Okay. All right. How long did you stay there?
That was 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 4 months there. Let go. Story of my life. They told me I was seasonal.
Story of my life.
Yeah, they told me I was seasonal. I don't remember it being a seasonal contract, but
you got to get it
who's
right.
to argue?
You got to look at the contract.
Well, I think I did have it in writing. I think that's kind of the point. But
yeah, didn't really want to push the issue there.
I wasn't gonna fight too hard.
Yeah, I mean,
it was also exhausting.
How do you win that though? You know what I mean? Like, you're fired. Like, am I? Like, yes, you are.
You're like, well, now you are. And you're like, all right,
cool.
Yeah,
can't really win
but
that,
also
you
and I was also getting pretty burned out, because I'm just doing these kind of insane days all the time.
Right.
A lot of fun, and I'm young enough that I can do it, but it was just getting exhausting. So now I'm just at Letterman, kind of struggling a little bit financially, but still doing a ton of stand-up. Met with a couple agents. They wanted me to do some commercial work. I didn't have headshots because I thought that agents gave you headshots at that time. What's the problem in your career, Will? Oh, it's me. Oh, it's me.
I'm not prepared. I thought you were a Boy Scout.
I didn't know. Well, I'm prepared to like fight a bear or tie a knot in that order, but I'm not, prepared to make my career work.
You're supposed to be prepared for everything, always. That's the thing.
I guess that's
I read the intro to the book. I was an aspiring tenderfoot at one point, and then they told me I had to do things to get a badge, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm out." Yeah,
you like started the plumbing badge, and
they didn't tell me that there was homework. You know what I mean? Like, I purposely took the classes to not have homework. Why am I going to have after school activity homework? You know what I mean? Like,
what?
You know.
What did you want? What did you want out of it? Just to like go hiking and lay
camping.
Outside?
Went camping once with my friends and played tag, and I was good. Got it out of my system.
You could have honestly just done at any point. You didn't have to like go buy a uniform.
Oh, I didn't buy the uniform. It's fine.
Oh, you just showed up in t-shirt, like a t-shirt?
Yeah. It was one of those where I was like, I'll get it next week. Yeah. No, I'll get it next week. Yeah. No, I didn't put any kind of money into it whatsoever, except for that one, the price of that one camping trip.
Okay. Well, at least you experimented with it before really doubling down on it.
Yeah, they let me carry a pocket knife. I got my whittling chip. You know what I mean? That was cool.
Yeah, there you go.
I got to start a fire. I got my fire chip, and then I was like, this is as far as I go.
Did you have the little flint and you had to like spark the flint?
I did, but I could never get it to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I could
it's
never
like,
figure that out either.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother's great at it. My buddy Handsome Rob was good at it.
Oh, I'm definitely
Not me.
screwed if I'm ever on like a island or something. Yeah, I'm done.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, if I crash land with my brother, I'm gonna be fine. But if I'm on my own, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna eat coconuts until I die.
Yeah, same.
Assuming there's coconuts. Assuming there's coconuts.
Hopefully there's
Knowing my
coconut.
luck.
I prefer pineapple, but you know, hopefully there's something. You know what I mean?
I don't know if pineapples grow on islands though. Well, I guess they do. Maybe Hawaii.
Where they gotta get like where else do pineapples come from? They gotta be islands. That's if you were to tell me there's one island fruit, I'd be like pineapple.
What if it
I
wasn't
don't
though? What if you found out it was like
Are
from
we-
the Rocky Mountains?
I just love that this is our first episode together as joint hosts, and we're just preparing you, audience members, to know you're not going to get any type of knowledge from any of this. Just we really
Pineapples
want
are
to
from
stress
Denver.
that. Just want you to know, no factual information will be dropped on said show.
Yeah, I've been making up this whole story.
Speaking of made up Will Land, you're in New York, you're working for Letterman, you're doing stand up.
Yeah, so
they want you to do commercials, no headshots. What you
no
got?
headshots. Commercials fall through. They stop
Okay.
working out. But stand
Okay.
starts going really well. I'm
Okay.
at the stand pretty consistently. I'm doing stuff through a group called Laughing Buddha, which does not have the best reputation these days. But at the time, you know, it was okay.
didn't know.
I didn't know. Well, I mean,
No, I'm just saying
maybe
people didn't know.
people didn't know.
Whenever things that turn out bad at the time, you might not have known.
Yeah, and there's a lot of comics that are doing very well now. We all were kind of like hitting the mics together. We're shows then. Like we're all kind of just in this whatever this system is. We're all kind of in it together.
Okay.
So I'm doing the stand. It's going great. I'm enjoying it. Like I'm liking the material. I'm writing all the time. Haven't experimented with going on the road outside of like maybe checking out Boston or the occasional show back in my hometown in Maryland or something.
Okay.
And then Letterman ends. I can't get another TV job to save my life. And I end up working at the stand, the Standard restaurant, and they hired me because they saw Letterman was on my resume, and the GM said to me, "We like hiring pages because we know you guys are desperate."
Wow.
Yeah, and my
That's
buddy
awesome to hear.
and my buddy whose wedding I was just at, he had started and already been fired between in the last couple of weeks. Because same thing, she was like, "Oh, Paige, I'll hire him," and he just was terrible at being a busboy apparently, and they fired him. But he's doing okay now. He's doing okay now.
Good to know.
Yeah, he found his career and his wife and all that. Good stuff.
Busboy's not for everybody. You know what I mean? I was a very bad busboy.
I was okay. I was pretty good, but it was like compared to what, you know?
Yeah. I mean that I've always treated that, and it could be my downfall, but I always worked to the pay I was getting. You know what I mean? You want to pay me $10 an hour?
always
You
felt
get
like
$10 an hour out of me.
Yeah, I know. I think I was just like, well, I got nothing else going on, so I guess I'll just get good at this or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Nah.
yeah, so I'm working at the Standard now, still doing stand up. Stand up again, still going fine. I am just miserable at working at this restaurant. Like, I loved everyone I worked with. I had some great managers. The all hostesses, I remember they were all just great. They were all super nice, but just there was this maitre d' who had it out for me, and he was just the biggest dickhead.
Damn.
And he would like single me out for like not changing a linen quick enough, and I was like, dude,
it's a fake job.
you do it
anyway,
then,
dude. Like, get
yeah.
out
I was like, you do it.
I don't understand
One
how
time
you
we
have
were
a host and a maitre d'.
Well, I actually that doesn't make sense now that I'm saying it out loud. But yeah, that's what his job was.
No, I mean I get it. I know
And he was
I've
like,
worked in a fancy restaurant where there were both, but why?
yeah, I don't know.
Is it like
I
the
remember
head
he was
host,
like,
I guess?
yeah. Well, I think that's what it is. He's like, I think kind of overseeing all of it and just
Yeah,
trying to make
okay.
the
That makes
busboys
sense.
miserable because
Yeah,
he can't.
that makes sense.
He can't yell at the waiters, but he can yell at the busboys because he's got to be
Chain
a
of
person in
command.
a position of power. Yeah,
Restaurant chain, because you're not even a manager. You're like a secondary manager. You know, like get
right.
out of
And
here. You're not
I
gonna
heard
tell me
he,
what to do.
yeah. And I heard he got passed on for a GM position, so he's probably just one of those bitter boys who couldn't get his drinking together and keep the job he wanted. Oh, I'm not bitter about it 10 years later.
I could hear it in the voice. It definitely said no bitterness here to me, you know.
Yeah, always positive. But yeah, I just hated the job. And I still, again, another job where I still have some friends from it. And like, it was just like, we had that kind of bond that like, well, this sucks, but at least we're all together. And they would come support stand up every once in a while. Like, it was that kind of thing.
Yeah. It builds
But
friendships. Hard jobs build friendships for sure.
right. And the good thing is the GM really liked me. So she was like, all right, we're going to try and get you to be a waiter at some point. And that's when you could really make some good money. And the day she told me I was going to start getting trained as a waiter, I go out that night with some friends and we go to a bar called Blind Barber.
Okay.
And it's called Blind Barber. It was a speakeasy that we used to love to go to. But sometimes they would always like count the ratio of guys to girls. So we're taking this risk because I think there was 3 girls and 5 guys or something like that. Maybe like 3 girls and 4 guys or something like that. So we're walking up and I turn around in line and a girl I knew from college, she took my ex-girlfriend's room in this like apartment complex that there was like the girl's house and the guy's house, and we all lived down the street from each other and we we're all good friends, right?
Yeah.
And my ex went to like a internship program or something, and she took her room and her and I became pretty good friends, but I hadn't really seen her since then. That was like our junior year.
Yeah.
And she's in line with another friend, and I was like, oh my god, I haven't seen you in forever, this is insane, like, how you been, blah blah. We start talking. She's working for Colbert at the time. Colbert Report. And she's like, are you still working in TV? Yeah. And she's like, are you still working in TV? And while I was at the restaurant, I was dabbling in like TV production a little bit. Like, I was driving vans for like random reality shows, right? Again, miserable. And like, stand up was my
I want to stress.
Yeah, not happy. But stand up was like my outlet, right? Like, that was the one thing, like, when I could get on stage, I could be like, okay, I have this, no one could take that away from me. But like, on nights that I was at the restaurant or I was working late on set, I was just like, I gotta get back to that. And anyway, so her and I start chatting, and she's like, well, send me your resume and maybe I can get you some hours at Colbert. And I'm like, that'd be great. Send her the resume. Hours don't really work out, but she gets a call from The Sound of Music live with Carrie Underwood. Remember when that came out?
I'm so sorry, but I hate Carrie Underwood.
No comment.
I hate her so much.
No comment.
Okay, no, but go ahead.
No comment. So anyway, basically, she gets a call from them at NBC saying, hey, we need some PAs. And my resume is sitting on her desk.
Ooh.
Oh, also, we didn't get into the bar, by the way. We moved our ratio up to. They still didn't let us in. They were like, no. They were like, none of you getting in, despite all. And we were like, look, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm wearing a button up. I was in the GQ at the time. I had a tie on too. I had a skinny tie with the button up.
What? Get out of here! Look at you.
Yeah, I used to be fresh. I used to be real fresh. Anyway, so I take Sound of Music. And that is the beginning of stand-up basically becoming a hobby.
Okay.
And I didn't really know it at the time, because in my mind, I was still a comedian that was just like dabbling in production.
Yeah.
But I'm doing 1 show a month.
Yeah.
And maybe an open mic if I have time.
Okay.
And so that leads me down a path where like, it's still kind of this thing where I'm working in production, but I would tell people about stand-up, and like, they might go to a show if I had the show. But I basically just stopped doing stand-up for about 2 years. Okay. Yeah, seriously. And then I'm in LA doing a show. Something kind of breaks in my head about comedy, and I can't even think about getting on stage for like 9 months.
Okay. Like panic attack level type stuff?
Nothing happened on stage. I just got off stage, and something felt so horribly different. And then all of a sudden, for the first time since I was like 19, I had lost this part of me that was such an important part of my identity.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was wild. And I I don't know if, I mean, like, maybe historically maybe it was a panic attack. I'm at a comedy, essentially.
Yeah, and you're working, I guess, LA now?
Well, I'm going back and forth to New York and LA.
Oof.
And I'm working production jobs. Yeah.
Okay.
doing the
Are
stuff.
you working for
going
like an
great.
agency, or are you just picking up jobs from like the different places?
The first year and a half, I'm working for a director slash choreographer.
Okay.
He's both, but he's only one. He's like a director in theater, but he's a choreographer in TV.
Okay.
So we're doing cool projects. Working on the Oscars. We're working on the Emmy. Like a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah.
The Sound of Music live, Peter Pan live, which was I don't know if you saw the ratings, but crushed.
How did you know I was a big fan?
I could I know you're a big fan of Christopher Walken.
I do like Christopher. He was on
But I'm
Peter Pan, for real?
yeah, that's a whole story for another day.
Okay.
That's a whole story for another day.
Was he Hook?
But
who did he play?
he was Hook. He was Hook.
Oh, Christopher Walken played Hook. Oh man, I might have to go back and watch it now.
He referred to me as the boy in the plaid shirt.
The
'Cause
boy
the first
in
day
the
he-
plaid shirt. All right.
First day he met me, I gave him. They were like, Christopher Walken loves pretzels, so I handed him pretzels, and I was wearing a plaid shirt, and then like a couple months later, he was like, "Where's the boy?" They're like, "What?" It was like a boy in the plaid shirt with the pretzels. Like, I can't do a Christopher Walken impression, but they were like, "Will?" And I was just like standing there in a plaid shirt by chance, and
Eating
I was like,
pretzels.
yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, that guy," and like I had to like go find him pretzels and bring him pretzels, and I was just like, "This is
You're the
crazy,
pretzel
man."
guy now.
Yeah.
You gotta get him.
But yeah, so I'm basically I'm not doing stand up. I'm doing production, and then I start freelancing after that. So I worked for that guy for about a year and a half. Then I'm freelancing pretty hard. And the first time stand up came back into my life is there was another PA I was working with who we were like kind of casually talking, and I mentioned that I used to do stand up. I was like, "Yeah, I used to do stand up. It was pretty fun." And he looked up like one of my tapes on YouTube, and he started showing people around the set and was like, "This guy was pretty good. This guy was like okay, it wasn't bad." And so at the time, I was with my ex. We were like living together at the time, and things were going great, but I just wasn't doing stand up. And this guy was like, "Yeah, you should try it again." And my ex had been kind of being like, "I think you should try it. Like, I think you should try and get back on stage. Like, I can tell you miss it, you know, whatever." So I just get back on stage. I just get back on stage
in New York. Do you get back on
in New York, still in New York, yeah. And I just start doing stand up again, and it's real slow. Like the training wheels took a while to get off. Like it didn't come as naturally to me. Yeah. Like in my early 20s, like everything just kind of came to me very instinctually. Like it was easy to write a joke because it was really easy, and I was never scared to try a new joke on stage, even if it was a book show at the stand. Like, so the confidence wasn't there, and that's what took a long time to get moving again.
You know.
And then at some point, I'm standing in Yonkers working on a TV job, and it's like 8 degrees outside. It's like it's so unimaginably cold, and I was like, "This sucks. I'm making no money. I'm working 14 hours a day. I hate these projects. I don't even watch the shows I'm working for." I was like, "What am I doing?" I was like, "I'm going all in on stand-up." Yeah. So I start doing stand-up, start working at a restaurant again. Restaurant's great. That ends up being its own story. Start walking dogs. Become pretty good at walking dogs. And
I've heard your reputation precedes you on the dog walking. Walks
Brooklyn's
with
number
Will.
1 dog walker, circa 2016.
It's crucial.
Maybe 17. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just like I start doing the gig jobs, right? I start doing the gigs and just focusing on stand up. And I get like year and a half back in, but I also have 5 years of material from beforehand, right?
Right.
So I'm like, all right, I got to do something. Like I got to do something to see if I can make this work, right? And this is right before a couple years before TikTok starts kind of taking over. YouTube still isn't like you're not seeing people get booked in theaters for YouTube yet.
Okay. We don't
like Bo Burnham still
yet.
Right, like you have Bo Burnham, like he's still doing, but this is even around the time like he's kind of disappearing for a little while.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So I just was like, I want to see if I can do a half hour. I want to see if I can do a half hour material mixed with the early stuff I did and the stuff I've written in the last year and a half, and I'm going to see how it goes. So I rented out the pit loft and just hit every mic and show I could for like a couple months straight, and then just sold the place out and just did a half hour, and it went great. It went incredibly great. It was amazing. So next thing I know, I'm like getting offers on the road, and now I'm starting to like check out the road a little bit. And but the way my brain is like, I should have just been doing that half hour set on the road. But in my mind, I was like, well, this needs to be retired, which in some regards, yeah, like if that was
Burn
on
the
Comedy
material.
Central or something, I should have probably burned it.
Yeah.
But it really like 600 people saw it online, you know?
Right.
So I'm like trying to do new material on the road, but that's also not a bad thing to like try it all out
But
and
to
whatever.
sprinkle it in, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. So I meet this guy named Alex Grubard, comedy buddy of mine. He starts taking me on the road. I start going to Philly a lot, going up to Boston again, but this time in a different way. Make it all the way up to Portland. I'm starting to get into Burlington, Vermont. I'm starting to like hit New England pretty hard. Then I eventually start making it down to North Carolina, and just I'm watching the map kind of grow in front of me of where I can do stand up. And the further I get away from New York, I almost feel like the better I got, because I was learning how the rest of the country thinks, or regionally, at least, not like the rest of the country, but like just how different regions think, you know?
Right.
And it kind of like starts sort of falling into place in my head where I'm like, cool, all right, like I'm building this, whatever it is, I'm building it. It's still, that's the comedy thing, is you never know what you're quite building, but then it sort of falls into place and you're like, cool. And so things are going well. I'm happy with it. The restaurant's a little tough. Money's a little tight. And the more I do the road, the money gets tighter and tighter. My ex had pretty expensive tastes, so that didn't help as well. But then I get to a point where I start producing my own show based on the half hour I did, where I gave other people opportunities to do a half hour.
Okay.
And I'm celebrating the anniversary of that show. And I was doing a half hour at the end of it. And I was like, well, let's record it, because maybe it could be an album. Because I don't really, like you can just self-produce an album. Like I know guys that just spit out albums. But like, again, what if it's something I shop around? Who knows what it is, right? And we do it, and the whole show doesn't go great. It's a great lineup. It's Josh Gondelman, it's Sydney Washington, it's Drew Morgan, and one more person I'm forgetting off the top of my head who I should probably remember. But they all do great. And they do so well that the audience is dead by the time I get up to do my half hour.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, well, now I want to record this album, because I know I have more than half an hour. I can do 40 minutes. And I like the idea of a 40-minute album. Like, I think that's the amount of attention people actually pay.
Give an album. Yeah.
To most things. So rebook some stuff, rework the lineup. I get Joe Pera to open for me, which is just hilarious, having Joe Pera open for anybody, because he's so low energy and he's just like, he's such a specific comic, Yeah. Caitlin Palufo was the host. Fantastic. She's doing great right now. She's doing great back then. Only want the best things for her, because she's just awesome. And we record the album, and again, goes great. And I'm just like, sick. And then I find out we lost all of the audio.
Oh no.
And I'm like, well, I can't fill this room a third time. It's not going to happen. It's just not,
Yeah.
Then I remember I recorded all of it on my iPhone, just to like have so I get in touch with this editor. So my buddy edits, like a personal friend edits it first, and it sounds okay. And then a buddy of mine who has since won an Emmy for audio engineering was like, okay. yeah. He was like, well, my boss wants us to take on side projects to practice. Give me this. And he takes weeks on it. And it's one of those things where, like, when you hear what was on my phone versus what came out, I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. But when you just hear the final product, you're like, was this his iPhone or something? So like, but I think it sounds fantastic. And now I can listen to it and go, okay. It's a little hard to hear sometimes.
I see what people are saying.
But again, it leads to some cool things. The Interrobang, it's a website back in New York. They had me write up an article about it, because they were like, this is cool that you just self-produced this album. Apple Insider Podcast, they had me come on because they wanted to talk about like using their product to, do this whole thing. Yeah. And then I see that this guy named Adam Amawala, who's now a friend of mine, he was releasing an album about 2 weeks prior to when I was going to, and he kept pushing for everybody to just buy it on iTunes because that helps the first day sales, and he could chart highly on iTunes, right? And so I'm like, all right, I'll do that. So I go back home to Maryland. I really focus in on one target audience, and I just like I hit our local news channel, I get in the newspaper, all my friends, family, and obviously people back in New York as well, but
Yeah.
just those two markets and nothing else. I didn't try and focus anywhere else except for those two markets. And then the album comes out and it debuted at #1 on iTunes
Yeah.
on the comedy charts. Right. And it was just it was on my birthday.
That's awesome.
So again, I'm like, hell yeah, we are up here. This is great. So glad I made this decision. Leading this moment, I start doing the road again. Everything's going awesome. People are talking about the album. Like I'm getting offered some headlining gigs. And then my ex and I break up.
Oh no.
3 months after the
Things
album
were
comes
going
out.
so well.
Too well. Too well. So yeah, so comedy wise, the next 2 years kind of become very, I don't know if redundant's the right word. Repetitive is the word I was looking for. And I'm doing the road a lot. I barely am in New York. I'm just again trying to expand the market, dabble with some homelessness for a little bit.
Oh,
But I
okay.
had some buddies that were putting me up though. Like I quit the job at the restaurant because I was like, I can't be here anymore. I need to put everything that is associated with my ex. I got to put it behind me, or try to at least. So I'm doing the road, living out of my car, crashing with some buddies sometimes sleeping in the car. 2018 wasn't that bad. Like it's still going okay at this point. But then 2019 hit and it got like I'm doing the same gigs for no money, but I'm still developing a ton of material, right?
Okay.
So I'm getting through the year. I'm hitting some low points. I'm kind of like, something's got to happen. Something's got to happen. And then finally, I get towards the end of 2019, and I'm like, it's not going to just fall in my lap. I got to make something happen for myself.
Right.
So I booked my first nationwide comedy tour. I'm like, I've done New England. I've done all these things. I need to just keep expanding. So the idea was to go from New York all the way out to LA, not do too much stand up in LA because it's a different, I don't have a lot of connections there comedy wise,
Mhm.
but do production jobs, get a little more money in my pocket, then come back across the country and decide if I want to stay in New York by the end of March.
Okay.
So I'm booked from LA to all the way down to the South, straight across the South, all throughout Texas, through the Southeast and the Southwest, and then up into LA. Then I'm booked all the way back across the middle of the country. I was doing Denver, I was supposed to do Nashville, I was supposed to do Chattanooga, I was supposed to do Indianapolis, was supposed to do all these other places. And then March of 2020 hits.
What
We all know
happened
how
in
it
March of
goes.
2020?
I learned like how much I love my hometown.
Oh.
So COVID hits,
Yeah.
and I get stuck back home for 9 months. Right?
Mm.
Yeah.
So you didn't even go back. You're like, I'm not going back to New York. Like, it's pointless. For me to do that.
Well, when COVID hit, I was like, I'm definitely not going to go back to New York.
That's fair.
Like, I was like, I'm not going to go into the belly of the beast.
Yeah.
For
Was it the
you know.
trucks full of the corpses that got you? Is that what? That was it? The
That was
judging
part of it.
factor? Yeah,
That
okay.
was a bit of it. That was a bit of it. That and having no money.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Having no money in a city where you still need money, even though no one had any money.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
But yeah, so catches up to 2020, and almost leading us up to us.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When we
Uh,
first met.
When we first met. So yeah, I start doing Zoom shows immediately. I'm doing Instagram live shows. My siblings and my family would all sit in, and I would bring comics in from New York, and we would do that. And so that's kind of the funny through line of like my whole comedy career has somehow always sort of come back to Hagerstown in one way or another, you
Yeah.
know, like whether it was like the eighth grade thing starting out, or like trying my first 40, like the first one of 40 minutes. I was like 20 just rambling on, but
Right.
it was here at like my friend's coffee shop, these little things. Those guys come up to shows every once in a while. Like the first minute, a half hour, my mom came up, a bunch of my friends came up. So it's like, it's this funny thing where Hagerstown, does come back into my life comedy wise, and it usually leads to something afterwards. Like the album being number 1 on iTunes. That was mostly because of Hagerstown plugging the album, like little things like that. So last year I started working with a producer in Nashville on Zoom shows named Kaylee Harmon. She's running a new, at the time it was called Music City Comedy, I think, but she changed it to Dewey Comedy. And she's like, I like the Zoom shows. Let's do some Zoom shows. We do a couple together. They go great. Then we start talking about this album, because I was supposed to record my second album. That was a big part of 2020. I was leaving for the tour, and I got through the first leg of it in January, and I was like, oh, I have a new hour.
Nice.
And I want to get this down on paper, because I think it's something, it's about breakups and about living out of my car and just like perseverance and gaslighting and all this stuff, but it was all funny. And so I contacted the Empire Comedy Club in Portland, Maine, and they gave me 2 shows over a weekend in May. And so I started hitting up all the contacts I have, and I just basically booked nothing but headlining shows from the end of March until to the album recording. Yeah. Nashville was one of them, all these places. So all that falls through, all of it. So Kaylee and I are doing these Zoom shows, and she's like, we're like, well, what if we tried to do the album on Zoom? We're not going anywhere anytime soon, doesn't seem like. So we did it. We did it in May. We recorded it on Zoom. And then I spent 3 months working with an editor from Boston, and really was rough. It was just like rough to hear it every day, knowing what this album could have been, and just hearing your voice back on Zoom nonstop, and
because what was the feedback like? Do you get a lot of were people laughing? Like, how did people stay muted? Like, how they deal with all that?
People were laughing, but the way Zoom was set up, you couldn't hear everybody at the same time. So it would be like a couple of laughs here and there. And I could see the laughs. I couldn't hear the laughs.
Still brutal with timing and everything.
And I had a friend who saw me run that hour in January, and she sat in and watched it. And she was like, I could tell there was she's like, you covered it well. And if I didn't know you, I wouldn't have noticed it. But there was an emptiness in it, and you could tell this was just breaking your heart to do this over Zoom.
Yeah.
But we edit it, we put it out, goes fine. No one really cared. Because by the time it came out, it was like October. Everyone's kind of back out again. We're all focusing on the election, like the whole thing. Like if I could have, I would have tried to get it out like in June, but it's just like, it was so hard, and it just took a lot of time. But it comes out, and I got hired by Miss USA pageant to come out of TV retirement and go to Memphis. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna be in Memphis. I should go check out Nashville.
Yeah. Because
I need to get out of town. I need to move. I need to do something else, and I just don't want to go back to New York. So this is where you and I meet. I think it was Diskin, right? We met at Diskin.
Yep, Diskin.
So we had Diskin Cider. Kaylee and I meet in person for the first time. I have just a great 2 weeks in Nashville and in the surrounding area. Didn't do great at Comedy Bar. But I also was talking about a lot of 2020 jokes in a southern state that wouldn't wear masks, and I'm just like, hey, maybe this guy should go fuck himself. We're not wearing a mask. And then
we're not trying to hear this.
Like, hey, we get it. Biden won, but don't rub it in our faces. It was, and I was like, looking back, you're like, yeah, I probably should have just done the hits instead of trying the more controversial stuff.
The old hits.
But it all goes well. Meet a bunch of cool comics, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's change it up. There's something happening in Nashville. I'm seeing the scene grow. I'm seeing a lot of really hungry comics moving there and already being there. And then January of 2021, moved to Nashville, and so far the rest has been history.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Love it. And now we're here.
Amazing
podcast together.
From Hagerstown. And Nashville.
See, look at that full circle. Our first episode, you're back in Hagerstown.
Oh God, what's gonna happen next?
Well, there we go.
Yeah,
we did it.
And that's the story. That's the stand-up story.
First episode.
See, this is.
Look at that.
I'm glad we got this one out of the way first, because there's no way anybody is going to be this long-winded.
It
because
gets
I am
easier from here,
exhausted.
folks.
I know someone at home was like, God, is this guy shut up?
Nah,
And
man,
it's
I
my
don't think
and
so.
it's my dad.
They're all standing on the other side of the door, like, Jesus. We've heard
Well,
this story so many times.
oh, my brother Kevin would be like, "You're telling that story of the Sound of Music, huh? Yeah, we get it. 2014 was a great year.
We
That's all you've had."
get it.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. What where can they find you on social media?
Find me at Will Abeles Comedy on Instagram. That's my main social media
The
outlet.
Insta.
And
Same.
I do a little Twitter, but it's just so toxic. All social media is toxic. And
Everything.
Twitter,
I just love Instagram because I get to control what pictures I look at. You know.
right? Exactly. You can just like block, you can mute, you can do all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But on Instagram, if you want to come see a show, I'm currently out and about. But all my shows are listed on willabelscomedy.com/tour, or you can just go to Instagram, and that pretty much pops up.
Linktree.
Or Linktree. Well, the link in my bio on my Instagram is my Linktree.
Look at that.
Yeah.
He could have been a millionaire with the other company, but Linktree came in and just took over.
You know, I was really blocking that part out.
Yeah, you know.
I was really blocking the monetary part of that out.
Yeah. Who knows how much money it could have been, you know? Could have been talking about, you know, the greats, you know, Zuckerberg, you know,
Yeah.
Abels, you know, Musk, you know.
Zuckerberg, Abeles. God, could you imagine if I just became this billionaire, but I absolutely became the worst. Like I did like exactly like them.
Are you saying you wouldn't become the worst if you
As
weren't a millionaire? I think I would be a terrible person if I was a millionaire.
I don't know. I got zanies, and then I was a dickhead for 2 days. I was walking around just like, where are my haters at? What? Where are you guys at? Can't see you. So I don't know. I mean, just like from that 7-minute spot compared to making $1 billion. Yeah, I think I might become a monster.
As long as you know you become the villain. You know what I mean?
I didn't say the villain.
Nah, you'd be the villain.
I'd be the monsters.
No.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes a monster can be the good guy, like Sully.
Yeah,
in
the
Monsters, Inc.
ego's not coming out now at all. Talking about what kind of bad guy you'd be.
I'd be
I'd be the best bad guy.
I'd be like Venom. Like I'm the hero of the story.
But like in a funny way.
Like I feel like everyone would be like, "Oh, it's just Will." Yeah, you're right. I'd be a terrible billionaire.
Yeah, we know. It's fine.
Nah.
All right, well, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on at Laugh with Harrison on Instagram, DrewHarrisonComedy.com for links to everything and where I will be coming up. Just the beginning. We got plenty more episodes coming your way with some very funny guests of ours, some funny friends, you might say. So make sure you follow us, and we'll see you next time.
Funny friends.